Americans remember the former First Lady for visible public, her visible public, invisible public advocacy for mental health. She was one of that was a strong applicator of that. President Carter's Commission on Mental Health, which led to the passage of the Mental Health System Act of 1980. Fewer understand how much she was able to accomplish on the mission by exercising her formidable influence behind the scenes. And she did a lot of work behind the scenes. Both her and President Carter, they were very loving people of others. She exercised and left the scene, leaving credit to others when men ensured for the most vulnerable among us was the care and for her protective for harm through an international scale with a profound impact on the lives of thousands of people. 2020 hostess Barbara Waltons opened her broadcast telling of the viewers of a woman in Georgia recently alerted us to an ongoing horrifying human tragedy going on over in Greece. An investigation took place of the special of this incident, and a cruise was sent to Greece to the Leros story, Leros story,
Okay.
adding that the
No, go ahead.
Leros.
Okay, go ahead. Continue your story because you're on a new story now. I wanted to say something about mental health before you went on another story.
Okay, well, no, this is the same story. I'm dealing with
okay.
the mental health where and this is what she did. So, what do you want to say? Because this is what
I was just going to say mental health for what the president's wife did is very important because mental health is not talked about in all communities. A lot of times because we don't know how to deal with mental health, we prescribe an absorbent amount of drugs. And also too, when you are emotionally imbalanced, right? Because you're dealing with some type of trauma that might have happened to you as a child or even as an adult, it does take a mental toll on you. So you might not have started off with a mental health condition, but over time, if you don't deal with your emotions, you could eventually back yourself into a mental health condition. And so I do encourage everybody with their mental health when things are bothering you, your mind and your heart, and you're stressed out, you're having anxiety attacks, things of that nature, please talk to somebody. And then we have to be a people. And I think in this time, we are more sensitive than what we were in the past. But please be supportive of people who are admitting that they're struggling with that. I think about the Dallas Cowboys quarterback, Dak Prescott. They came out a couple of years ago. I'm not a Cowboys fan, of course, but one of the sports commentators, Skip Bayless, he was very negative and really dismissive of Dak Prescott, openly saying that he deals with depression and things mentally and emotionally. And that was very courageous for him as a male, a Black male at that, because in our community, sometimes we don't talk about things like that. And he got some negative pushback from people like that. But for me, I thought that was very strong and courageous. And I think that it helped open up the door for other people. And it did, to admit that they have some issues, they want to work on it, they want to deal with it. So let's not take that lightly, because also the mental health can also be connected to the spiritual health as well. And so when we think about this in the biblical text, a lot of that stuff mentally also mental issues we also could be tapping into. Is this some type of possession, right? Or is this a spiritual warfare that this person is dealing with internally? Maybe it's not something that is psychological or physiological, that it is a spiritual thing that requires much prayer. And I know that pastors are not doctors, but pastors are pastors, and men, and it's not just pastors. People who are believers in Christ are believers in Christ. And so as someone is dealing with mental health, let's make sure that we are praying, right? That we are being obedient to the Holy Spirit to assist and help those individuals with that mental health. Mental health has to be attacked on many layers, right? And if you allow the Holy Spirit to lead and guide you, and prayer is not the end of helping someone with mental health, it's just the beginning.
Yeah.
It's just the beginning. That's all I wanted to say about that.
I'm glad, Pastor Canty, you did stop me on that, because too often, and I must confess, many don't even know how to address it, and including, I must be honest, myself. But it is good that we do take in consideration that this is something that we do need to find out more about, be more sensitive to, and discuss. And also, to a lot of, even when you see a lot of homelessness and people out on the street, and you wonder why they don't apply for jobs. A lot of that can be attributed also to having some sense of a mental illness, or just simply unable to do. And so we need to know more about that and look into it. And maybe even sometime, and I have to say it again, if we don't know how to read, go to those people that can open up the doors and explain it better to us in our life and in our family's life, because we not only deal with this there, but we're also dealing with it sometime in our own immediate families, and we don't know how to handle it. So I'm glad that you did stop me, because this is a topic of concern and one that we need to get better versed in. So you brought out a lot of good points, a lot of good points. And you said the key thing when you said it's good to pray, but that's not the all in uh
That's
ins
not
and
the
outs.
all be all, yeah.
Yeah,
That's not
of
the
it.
end all be all, just praying. It's just the beginning when you start praying.
Right,
And
and that was a good point. And it kind of goes back to if I'm hungry, thank you for prayer, but give me some bread, you know. So, do the meet the try to meet the need as much as possible, and that's good. And this is what she did, and this is why this was something that was brought up in this article, because Barbara Walters got a hold of it. But watch this: she never identified herself, Rosalind Carter, First Lady, former First Lady Rosalind Carter. She went on as a person to be unknown, and her bringing it out, it was able to address it with the Greeks and the government and the nation. They were so embarrassed, and so many people, even in the United States, that they claimed that they had no knowledge of it. That when they addressed it and whatever, and announced that their inhumane conditions, announced that the hospital and Loretta's would finally shut down. So she was able, by speaking up, able by bringing it to the attentions of others what was going on, and that they eventually shut down. She was a quiet, things that she did behind the scene were very powerful and impacting, and led to such things to take place like this. So I just wanted to bring that out. And another thing, Pastor Canty, that I wanted to talk about really quickly, and I think it's a good thing because I kind of piggybacked off of something that you did years ago, but I had been asked about at Mama's Table, and also Wake Up KC. I had been asked about the journal, and many people said they wanted to start their journal, but they did not know how to get started. And sometimes they say, well, I write things down, but what are some important things that would help? And so in previous notes, and these are your notes, Pastor Canty, and also some added notes that I brought forth off of remembering, that's good when we talk about, and we always talk about tasty topics and relationships. And regarding people, we have to form relationships. And sometimes people, believe it or not, don't even know how to form relationships. There are some people that are just kind of stuck in that arena. So we have to ask these questions one to ourselves, and it's good to have it in our journal. One thing regarding people, you have to form a relationship. And so, how do we go about forming relationships? Well, we need to ask ourselves the obvious questions. Also, too, we need to have purpose. That's right, we need to have purpose. Everything is centered around purpose. And so, therefore, we need to ask one of the questions: do you feel people you form a relationship listen to you? Now, that's an important question, because oftentimes, and even in our Bible study, we found out over in James the importance of listening. Yes, it's very important to listen. And we found it out, and it said to us, and I'm going to kind of read this briefly, why it's so important to be a good listener, because oftentimes people are telling us things, and because we're not listening, we miss the obvious. When sometimes even people can be hurting or just really trying to get to know you. And so it says, in James 1:19. Wherefore, my brother, let everyone be swift to hear, slow to speak, and slow to wrath. And that means for us to let's think deeply about this verse and the meaning of these that believed in Jesus. For James wrote this letter. James knew, and we know from experience, that Christians, just all of us, can be slow to listen, not fully listening. And oftentimes we miss byproducts of getting to know one another or even hearing or being able to respond effectively because we're not good listeners. And so this means you yourself, you must be a good listener. The next one, do they care? And that also is showing when you listen, people feel like you care about them. And that's a part of being a journal. Even yourself, sometimes you might feel neglected because you're speaking and people are not listening. And I remember sometimes even you, Pastor Canty, used to tell me, but you don't listen or you don't hear me. And that is essential. And it may be done unintentionally. And sometimes we have to practice behavior because we get so used to or adapted to doing and carrying on a certain way that we don't do those things. So that's a thing that can be noted in your journal.
Okay, so what we're talking about here is having a journal, and one of the topics of having a journal is possibly when you journal, you can journal about relationships and just some thoughts about a purpose, your purpose in a relationship, your perspective in a relationship, that being a topic in your journal. And I think that's pretty good because relationships are really important, and many people don't think about journaling about relationships. And a lot of times that's probably one of the top three things that individuals struggle with is how do I develop relationships, and what is the positive and or negative that I add? You know, am I a positive dynamic in a relationship, or am I a negative dynamic in a relationship? And if you can journal about some of those things, I mean, that's helpful. One of the things that when I think about myself, and sometimes journals, you want to write it out. A lot of times I mentally do evaluations. There's almost like a written journal, and I have like this mental journal. Sometimes as I'm gleaning over things, especially over myself, you know, sometimes the first thing I go to for myself, this is for me, you know, because I come from a different era. Because, you know, a lot of people, you guys are really delicate now. I don't understand, but whatever. You know, I start my journal off about myself. I'll be like, I suck. These are the things that I just did not do right today. Like, that's how I talk to me. I'd be like, man, I suck. You know, like, gosh, these are my misses, these are my failures. And I journal those, you know, there's this mental journal. So I say, what can I do to where I don't miss those marks, that I don't miss those opportunities? And so even with relationships, when you talk about what your purpose is, you know, what is my purpose in a relationship? Or, you know, where am I going? You know, and we're not even just talking about romantic relationships.
That's right.
What about your friendships? What about your family dynamic in relationships? What about your coworkers? Relationship with your coworkers? What about your relationship to your fellow brother in Christ and your neighbors? And a lot of times we have to journal because people are trying to find out where they fit and how they fit and what they're supposed to do beyond just waking up in the morning. And
Yes.
it's interesting that a lot of people are just, they're going through the motions and they're lost. And I
Yes.
always tell people, you know, I always say to people, well, what's your plan? You know, what's the plan? What's your plan? What's the purpose? And you got to work the plan, and you got to plan to work and work the plan and push forward and move forward. So you know what you're achieving in incremental kind of categories and slots. So journaling is huge. I know it takes that time, but we got to take that time for ourselves. And I think that's what we miss. Just because you're busy doesn't mean that it's a healthy type of busy that's pouring into you, restoring you, and improving you to be the best you that you can be, not just for yourself, but for all the things that you're connected to.
And Pastor Canty, wow, You really laid that out, I must say. And the reason why I said that, you started off when you said the first thing you did, you acknowledged that you suck. And you said that, and saying that, saying you missed the mark. And when we think biblically, missing the mark is a sin. And so, therefore, you spoke it right on target, not only for yourself, but oftentimes we too have to acknowledge where we've missed the mark. And so that is the key point. Another thing that you talked about, and I love it because you were tying it all in biblically when you talked about the plan. And we know that Jesus was the perfect role model. He had a purpose, a plan, and a mission. And a lot of times, this is what we're talking about, even in our journal. And so you also spoke on those things. And journaling is very essential, and it can open up to our eyes to things that we need to realize. And then watch this. It has a way of coming back around just to see if you learn the lesson. And if we have our journal, we can go back and key into that to see on such and such a day, I had a similar experience or the same experience. Did I actually? Because sometimes things are to repeat it to see if we got it, if we growed, if we were developed. So that's essential. Another thing about this, and then I'm going to put it into your hands and Wake Up KC, that we have to understand that, do you often have conflicts or miscommunications with others? That's something you need to think about, and you need to put it in your journal, because we have to understand not everybody communicates the same way or comprehends the same way. And so sometimes we have to go back, find out where the breakdown is coming from, and see and try to keep things as simplistic as we can, where others can really join in and understand what we're attempting to say, or even sometimes what could have brought on the misunderstanding. Another thing, too, we have to understand, do you have several relationships with the community, and do most of your relationships intertwine with one another? Oftentimes, too, when we don't get involved, when we don't participate, a lot of times you feel left out. And the truth of it is, you are left out because you're not as informed. You don't know. You're not participating. People don't know how you're thinking, and neither do you really learn how to interact with others. It is well when we get involved. It is well when we participate. And also, too, not necessarily meaning all the time that you have to talk, but that goes back to that being a good listener, bringing back good and formative information, not only for others, but for yourself. This allows growth. This allows us to have more knowledge, more things to work with. So then when we do eventually come out and participate, we know why we're participating and we know why we're involved. And that goes to sometimes, Pastor Canty, even when you think about us getting involved at the voting polls, you'll be surprised. People go to vote, but a lot of times they don't have the knowledge of why they're even voting for different issues, because they haven't taken the time to go out and find out what this relates, how this affects others or myself or my family or my community. We just go to the polls to vote. And so we have to find out things of how we can have community relationships as well as our own personal relationships, and how all this comes together. And then another thing, how do you benefit from these relationships? Find out rather than being manipulated, because there are some people that will find out too. And you have to understand, when you're getting involved with people that you care about, you have to watch being manipulated. It's good to care for others, it's good to do, but we know that there are some people that take those opportunities to manipulate you. And you have to understand, in the midst of that, you're doing what you're supposed to do or what you like to do, but not being drawn into something that may not be beneficial to you or the other person, but just the act of being used sometimes. And it's good to know your value. It's good to be kind, but also too, you need to understand the reason and the importance of that assignment.
Wow,
I'm
you got a deep journal right there. You got a real deep journal. Everybody, I guess we're getting into Dr. Canty's personal journal right now. She done went to telling you to write a journal to talk about, and then in the journal, you're gonna write about how they've been manipulating you and how they've been treating you.
well,
so
that is
no,
a part of.
no, I know. I was just saying that, yeah, when you start writing, so many things will come up. But let me challenge everybody this too, and I want to say this again. The biggest lies that we tell are the lies we tell ourselves. So when you write, you're the only person reading it. And when you pray, it's you and God talking. Let me say something to people. Be honest, because we are not as great as we think we really are. Okay?
That's true.
We got to quit lying to ourselves. If I can just, if you know, again, remember what I said. When I start off speaking, the first thing I'm looking at is all the things that I've done wrong. If y'all are journaling or if you're praying to God and the whole world is bad and everything you do is good, and I'm not saying you did that, Dr. Canty, but I got to get that disclaimer for people. You are not going to be healed. You are
That's
not going
right.
to be transformed. Your life is not going to be changed. And then for you co-signing friends and family members, there's one thing to be supportive. It's another thing to be an enabler. It's amazing what we do as a people. Wretched, low down, bad attitude family members and friends, how y'all stand in their corner and you okay the nonsense that they speak, the stuff that they say and do, and the one time a good man or woman falls down, you jump their bones. You don't have half the tolerance, half the encouraging words to say to them, but we continue to perpetuate. Well, Keisha always got a bad attitude, but that's just Keisha if you know her. No. Or Johnny's a drunk, but he's a lovable drunk, and he don't mean those things that he says when he's belligerent. Oh, no, quit doing that dumb stuff. We are talking about things like journaling and praying and going to God. This is about pushing and moving yourself forward. And it's not about talking about how great you are, but really understanding how great God is, right?
Yeah.
That can help us change our lives. That's the kind of thing that I hope everybody's taking from that exercise and that type of habit when you start
Yes.
that in life.
Yes.
So,
Yes, so true. And as I wrap this up, Pastor Canty, and I'm so glad that you came back and revisit that because really that's true. I was just more or less trying to go through some of the things regarding relationships to try to pull in a certain arena in your journal, but there's going to be much more that's going to be channeled into your journal as we go on. I'm going to end this right now and I'm going to put it in the hands of Wake Up KC because I want to make sure that I'm trying to give you a start on trying to just some things that can be discussed in your journal because day to day people start out in the journal, but a lot of times they lose track of keeping it up. So this was just one of the things to just kind of bring forth. Well, Pastor Canty, Wake Up KC, you're at Mama's Table. You're listening to Dr. Cheryl Canty, and now I'm putting it in the hands of Wake Up KC, Pastor Elree Canty. Thank you. Cooking and smoking.
so here's what's going on in the news. This has been brewing for uh, quite a few days now. In Shawnee Mission, everybody's familiar with Shawnee Mission, Kansas. And Shawnee Mission East student charged with a felony in a racist attack. Here's what we know. A white male student, at Shawnee Mission East High School was charged with aggravated battery after calling a black female student the N-word and attacking her. A number of students walked out of class over the school's handling of the incident, and another protest is planned for Thursday. I know they had a protest last week. Some people that I know they were there at that protest that recently happened. White male student has been charged with the felony for attacking the black female student in a racist attack at Shawnee Mission East High School in Prairie Village. The incident has sparked an outcry among students and protests against the school's response. Video circulating online and published by the Kansas City Defender shows a white male student and a black female student getting into a confrontation in a hallway inside the school. The court records indicate that the incident took place on Wednesday, November the 15th. In the video, both students can be seen walking towards each other before the male student calls the female student the N-word and shoves her, and then both begin to throw punches. During the course of the video, the white male can be heard saying the N-word multiple times before the students and staff members come to break up the fight. The girl involved in the incident told the Kansas City Star columnist, reporter Porter, that she was defending a classmate who another student had referred to as a slave. Part of that interaction was captured in the second video published by the defender. On Wednesday, the white male student was charged with a felony aggravated battery with great bodily harm. According to the court records, he is scheduled to appear in court on December the 6th. A criminal complaint alleges uh, he unlawfully and knowingly caused great bodily harm or disfigurement to the female student. Records show the 15-year-old girl, whom KUAW is not naming because he is a minor, was also charged with aggravated assault and battery in June. So this dude, he was charged with something already in June. This I did not know, everybody. Court documents show emergency review hearing for that case was held Wednesday, and then the teen was remanded into custody. Both students were reportedly suspended, prompting walkout. So they were both suspended. Okay. District officials say that they cannot disclose any disciplinary action taken against specific students. Both the Star and the Kansas City Defender, a local nonprofit digital media startup focused on Black issues, cite multiple students who say both the white male and the Black female student have been suspended. So they both were suspended, even though this young lady was defending herself. The school suspended both of them. According to the defender, the Black female student reportedly suffered a broken nose as a result of the fight and had to go to the hospital. Roughly 100 students walked out of school on Monday at Shawnee Mission East in protest over the school's handling of the incident. Students interviewed during the protest by the Star said the incident was part of a larger pattern at Shawnee Mission East that has not been adequately addressed, leaving students of color at the school feeling marginalized and fearful. Shawnee Mission East Principal Jason Perez sent a message to families after Monday's walkout, which said, in part, Shawnee Mission East faculty, staff, and administration support students expressing their voice. As a part of that effort, I have recently had some very important conversations with students. As a school and a community, we know that in order for students to learn, they must first feel safe and supported. The words we use matter. Racially charged language, insults, and slurs will not be tolerated in our schools. The Defender, through its Black Student Solidarity Network, is now organizing a protest Thursday afternoon outside Shawnee Mission School District Center for Academics Achievement on 71st Street. Shawnee Mission School District Communications Director David Smith gave the Post the following statement. It is our priority for the administration and the board of the Shawnee Mission School District that all our students are treated with respect and feel welcomed in our schools. The Shawnee Mission School District has a non-discrimination, non-harassment policy that is applied and enforced across all our buildings. Board of Education policy AC strictly prohibits any form of discrimination or harassment within the school environment. All student handbooks contain a notice of non-discrimination and review with students at the beginning of each school year. Okay, the non-discrimination policy exhibits student-on-student discrimination and harassment based on any protected classification, including race. While a hate crime, along with criminal conduct of any nature, would be a police matter, the district takes seriously its responsibility to maintain an educational environment that is free from discrimination and harassing conduct. Let me stop right there. Let me say this. And I want to speak in such a way that is helpful. So I remember I've been a part of these things in the past before. I remember when I lived in Lee Summit North School District and how they had something similar. They didn't have a fight, but what they had was the faculty and the students. The faculty were saying racially charged things like "you people," talking about they're just intimidated when they're together in a crowd or a group. There was some negative connotations from a racial standpoint. This has been going on in Kansas City, the metropolitan, in greater Kansas City, in the suburbs in Kansas for as long as I can remember, even when I went to school. We have to deal with the fact that Missouri historically was a slave state, very, very racially charged. And if I could be quite honest, around election time, I always said that being in Kansas City and in the Jackson and Johnson County area every 4 years is horrific because the politics is so racially charged during election years that the children get to see and hear their parents act up. And these children are echoing the same negative energy, right, that their parents are giving off at home, right? And so when we see this stuff happen within children, not all the time, but most of the time, this type of hate is going on at home. It is very sad that this had to happen. I saw the video. I saw the video. It's amazing how you can have a video and still it takes, initially, they weren't going to do anything to this young man. They weren't going to do anything to this young boy until the community cried out. Thank you, community, for crying out. They were going to sweep this under the rug. They've continued to sweep these things under the rug. But here's what I have to say. If we don't, as a whole, we pick and choose what we talk about bullying and anti-bullying. Many people have said if this was a discrimination about sexuality, this would have been handled swiftly. It wouldn't have had to be no outcry, and it would have been handled. We pick and choose what we want to call what is bullying, right? When we have anti-bullying campaigns, but it does not pertain to minorities and racism, how are you going to get rid of bullying? Racism, right, is a stronger version of bullying, right? And it's historic. If we want to be successful in anti-bullying campaigns, we also have to combat and deal with racism. And racism is not one-sided. Let me say that for everybody. Racism is not one-sided. It is not for minorities to be in a place to be racist against other people. Black people can't be racist towards white people. That's racism. White against black or Asian or Hispanic. Racism altogether is bad. We are all human beings. We're all humans. Here's what's really tough, everybody. And I said this to my wife. Imagine our daughter goes to school. I get a call, or she comes home and her nose is broke, right? You gotta normalize this. It doesn't matter what color you are. Your daughter went to school. There's a video. If it's a white boy to a white girl, a black boy to a black girl, right? She go to school and we see a video where a boy walks up and pushes your daughter, right? Add on top of, let's just say it's not racist. She's defending what? Being called a B or being called some derogatory. There were no teachers around. We're the hall monitor teachers. They had a long stride before they met up. There should have been teachers posted. When I used to pass in classes, when you had your 5 minutes to get from class to class, a teacher was outside their door until the bell rung, but they viewed the hallways. The fact that this fight went on as long as it did, the fact that you can hear them yelling, this wasn't whispered. Ain't nobody gonna be yelling across the hall, you slave. That stuff should have stopped at the yelling. Y'all not understanding what I'm saying. I've been to high school before. Them teachers are at the doorways of their class, and they should be. Those teachers stood at the doorway when the bell rung, the hallway was clear, the teacher went in and taught class. You jokers allowing in conversation of you slave, you N-word. Listen, schools shouldn't even tolerate conversations like, hey, B, hey, ho, how you doing? None of that should be tolerated, right? So we have a failure right there at confrontation in words. In words, there were a failure. And now you allow, I don't know if you've seen the video, and then you allow this fight to happen. And he did push her first. Shame on the medias that said what allegedly happened. There is no alleged. And I'm gonna say this: we're getting to the point to where what good is a video if a video will be broken down? We clearly see offenders, and then there is still no punishment. Here's what we have to do. If we don't stop this right now, punishment is punishment. Nobody is asking for any special privileges. Here's what needs to be done. You have to obey the rules. You have to obey the law. If you break the rules and if you break the law, you should be penalized as such. That's it. So for everyone who has this racial thing to say, minorities want special treatment. No, we want the law to apply to you. That's it. Like, the law has to apply to you. The punishments have to apply to you. This is what's upsetting. Not the fact that it happened. We know that there are good people and bad people in society. But rules that are written, you can't erase them depending on the skin color. If it's a rule, if it's in your handbook and you don't do what the handbook says, if you don't abide by the rules, if you punish the innocent along with the guilty, right? That's not justice. That's not right. So these are the outcries. It ain't the fact that, listen, it happened, a fight happened. Girls and boys and girls and vice versa have been fighting in schools since the beginning of time. The issue becomes there is no repercussion for certain individuals who break rules. That's what I have to articulate, Dr. Canty, and that's what I want people to understand. Yes, it's a white and black thing, but it's a white and black thing because the sets of rules, the goalposts change. Things are not being held up. So it's not just here are minorities complaining again. We're saying, no, here are rules, here are things being done, and if the shoe was on the other foot, something will be done. If a black boy hit a white girl, if a black boy hit a black girl, listen, they need to be punished. Like, what are we talking about here? We shouldn't wait till the Midwest and half of society gets a hold of this article and say, okay, now we're going to do something about it. Again, that's where we're at in a simplistic form, without being hateful, without being emotional. You break the rules, you are penalized. But if people continue to break the rules and there's no penalty, we will continue to be in the place that we are today. What do you have to say, Doc?
Pastor Canty, I have a lot to say. And I don't want to stray away from what you're saying because you done broke that down good, and you're absolutely right. The double standard and applying the laws and the rules should be put in place, not only for this situation, but for all situations. And it's simple, and they know it's simple. But once again, and I must say, I don't want to be so holy that I'm no earthly good. I got a different toss on this thing. And the reason why I say that is I go back a long way, even from the old school days, and it brings out a little something in me. Okay, I'm trying to stay right, but I'm saying this because
we can be honest with it. The fact that me as a father, and I'm gonna be honest with y'all, and many of y'all, I minister to all people and things of that nature. There's no way my daughter comes with a broken nose, and I ask the school, well, what's this handle? And the school tells me no. Then it's, listen, my turn. And I'll allow God to deal with me however God sees fit, because I'm not in y'all hands. But I can't have my daughter go to school and a dude break her nose. And the reason why she got her nose broke was she was defending herself when the administration failed to defend her because she coming to school because they called her a slave and an N-word and a B.
Pastor Canty, I got to get in here. Absolutely right. I'm on your street. I get that. But I have another coin to toss in. We too got to wake up to how our community has been broken up and how our kids are scattered and put back in these situations that we fought to come out of. First of all, we should have been getting vicious when our neighborhood schools were being shut down. We should have been getting vicious when the accreditation of our students was not given properly and all these different superintendents. We should have been getting vicious and at that board of education when we see these things. And also, too, we have good educators. We have people that can teach. We need to start doing some things in our own community and quit letting it drop and quit letting it be scattered. Those schools were closed down one by one when we were forced to go and put our kids back in these circumstances. Most of the parents know they have to work, so they're not getting up to the school like they're supposed to be. And I know because I worked in the school system, I went up to the schools, I volunteered, I was PTA, I was SAC president, PTA, all those kind of things. I even traveled out of the city. And the reason why I'm adamant about it is because, and you bring up a good point about this situation, it should not be going on. There should be a standard, but also too, we need to check ourselves on how we leave ourselves so vulnerable because it keeps repeating itself. And also too, we have our kids out where they're outnumbered once more again. All their sports activities, all their trophies up there, Lincoln Academy, Central, and all these schools. We don't even have any sense of any type of background history for our people. Everything is demolished, and we never get upset till it's always a repeat of what's been going on for years. And so, yes, I'm a little adamant. Yes, I'm talking bolder because I understand I've seen this before. And yes, no, being called like, where were the teachers? Why weren't there monitors? You know why? Because it was their school. We only monitor our kids like they're criminals and animals because this is how our mindset has been, and we watch over them. But who's watching over those 2 or 20 kids out there in those different situations? And then you wonder why they have low self-esteem. Then you wonder why they don't feel like they need to speak up because they're always putting in a situation where they're the 1 or 20 in a midst of hundreds. So therefore, we as parents, we as people, we need to stop this gentrification. I hope I'm saying it right now. Well, we need to stop it. We need to get involved, our community, our churches, people. We need to start showing up not only when violence is taking place. We need to meet this up. They keep outthinking us because we're such a laid back people. And maybe my tone might be wrong right now. But I really say, when do you get tired of keep repeating a situation? So we need to get tired of being tired, and we need to be down there understanding, and then we need to be seeing, yes, this is a vital situation that happened out there, but it's been going on. Why are our kids so slow in reading? Why are our kids at 35th grade reading levels? Why are our kids, when you sitting right across Kansas City School District, Raytown South, Center, all these schools that are rated top in the nation, but they couldn't come across the street and help each other get a good education? Think about it. And so therefore, yes, the ugly comes out in Dr. Canty because I have enough sense to know what's going on. And a lot of you all know, but get up off your dust and start getting involved in your community and watch your child. Your child has been indoctrinated. Why is all these crazy ideas coming? Because they're indoctrinated, and you've been indoctrinated too. So therefore, yes, you kind of hitting on a sensitive topic, and then sometimes you just have to voice it. So right now, my voice is coming out boldly. I hope if you're out there, yes, I hope I put a sting under your plate. Mothers and fathers, you're putting your kids out here for better education, and yet we're in 2023 dealing with this type of thing when they can't even read and do math.
Well, also I will say this too. The schools are an institution to indoctrinate the children. We as parents, just because you send your child off to school, you're involved. You're invested in it as well.
Yeah.
The days of I sent my child to school and those people will get my child to where he or she needs to be. You can't have that mindset. You have to have the mindset of, if you don't know about the curriculum, if you don't know about the history that they're teaching, and check this out, education doesn't stop when your child goes to school. It's not limited to that institution. In your homes, you have to also be educating and teaching your children. And that's the greatest thing. School is the textbook stuff. Let me just be very honest what school really is. School is the resume for the underaged. School is the resume for the underage. You get your report card, it shows the consistency. You get the basic facts of, add, subtract, multiply, divide. They help you learn how to read just good enough so you can read, maybe your policies, your pamphlet and warning instructions when you get out here into the world. But at home also too. At home, there's an education that has to take place. And let's be honest with ourselves. What is the education setup that we're showing our children? The school's not responsible for faith. The school is not responsible for character. The school is not responsible for that inner discipline and attitude modification. That's home. And then also too, the school is not going to tell you about your Asian history, your Black history, things of that nature. The schools already let you know this is what history is to us. And so the school's not going to do that. The school is checking the box, right? It's an institution to set the institution up, right? For you to be, so you can fall into the fray. But there's greater that has to happen. And so again, I say this to parents: been there, done that, and we can't be at all the things. We'll try to be at as many things as we possibly can. Shout out to the men and women that are doing their part. It's not, I got some friends. Dr. Canty, that graduated from Lincoln. They hold a Lincoln Gala. They pour money into it. I got one buddy that got tons of money invested in Lincoln High School that you graduated from. I honestly, when I say money, I mean money. I mean like backing up auxiliary stuff where he's holding it down. And I say this to say, but it has to be more than just the ones and twosies of it all. We have to, wherever we are, whether you're in the inner city or in the suburb, your child comes home. You should be wanting to know what's going on. And then when you hear what's going on, be active before the altercation happens. Be active before a child's nose is broken. Because today a child's nose is broken. Tomorrow could be the retaliation of somebody might lose their life on either side. So stop it now. And I think the problem is y'all have to realize, even for those who feel like they not gonna do nothing to me, when a rat is backed against the wall, it will have to fight you back. And it will fight you back with the veracity that you may not be ready for. And so before we get to that point, because it will happen, it's inevitable. Let's not get to that point to where we don't want to lose any lives. We don't want any child hurt. Listen, bullets ain't got no name or faces. We don't want no melees. They're children. They're there to learn and grow, have fun, experiences, go to dances. It's crazy. The people who I didn't get along with in high school, it's amazing how everybody now we on Facebook. There's got to be at least 20 people that I know that didn't like me in high school or wouldn't even talk to me in high school. They're my Facebook friend now as an adult. And I think that what happens is, and what we're seeing today is, we got the nerve to pull up stuff on people who are adults now, that what they did at 15 and 16, and try to indict them with that because we have technology. So it would be important for us to tell young people today, you gonna mess around, and 10 years from now, they're gonna pull these videos and they could possibly cancel your job, because that's how ignorant society is. So for this young white boy who hit and broke a Black girl's nose today, 10 years from now, when he possibly found Jesus and changed his life, they might take his job because they'll find this on video, because he's on video forever, and say, you the same one that was hitting Black people, and now we can't accept you even though you've changed and you're a new creature in Christ. Like that's how demonic the world is. It's layered, everybody. We got to stop this.
Yeah, and also too, we have to stop being duped into coming against each other, because where it starts with this young man, and you mentioned that he had been in trouble again in June. Somebody needs to do some checking there and some counseling. Something's going on with him, okay? And so therefore, you got to watch the attack, how it can escalate. Innocent people sometimes get caught up in unnecessary confusion. Let's start with the system. Let's stay stuck there. And you're absolutely right. That young man should not have been underneath the covers. This kind of information, the school right there knows, and that parent, and a lot of times too, I gotta check it. What's going on? The parents are not aware something's going on with their child. And so we have to look in. He's had these issues before. He's doing a court case again. Now he's doing it again. Let's pay attention to everything and let's get involved. And then let's take it to the system, to where it needs to be a root cause of why and how they deal with things and why the rules don't apply the same to everybody. And then another thing too, I got to say this real quick, Pastor Canty, because you have laid out everything so wonderful, and I'm glad that you're hitting these topics, and sometimes it even hits my nerve. But I must say this too: we, the people, we have to start coming forward. Not only when it's time to take actions of violence, because that's really what they really want. We can't be let's not let people manipulate us to that. But let's be thinkers. Let's get ahead of stuff. Let's stop waiting till things happen. Let's pay attention to our community. Let's pay attention to our children, just like we didn't know about the pizza thing until you discovered it and brought it out, and different things that are being done on Strictly, just like voting, just like other things. We have to get actively involved, and also to change that into action. All right, Pastor Canty, I'm going to put it in your hands. It's so much more. Man, you started this topic. It's so much in my heart now that I would like to discuss. And at the same time, just because I love the Lord does not mean that I cannot voice my opinion, because I'm living in this world.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you know, for me, again, like I said, my daughter's nose gets broken. And this is just me. Like, y'all, if I lose y'all in testimony, I got to say this. I have to protect and defend my family.
Yeah.
Don't put me in a position where I have to deal with you, because I'll deal with you. And you know what I mean? Because I think people also too get Christianity mixed up with pacificity. I can still believe in God, but that doesn't mean I won't defend myself or my family. Like, you know, honestly, to tell you the truth, little kids are mean. Like, especially I'm raising a little girl. There's nothing more meaner than other little girls if they're not in a right home. As a Christian home, I tell my daughter, I'd be like, if they hit you first, you gotta hit them back. I mean, daddy ain't there. I mean, you know, I'm not always there.
Well, Pastor Canty, once more you get a hot one. Our time is at stake here right now. But man, you come on. See, you got me riled this morning, y'all.
Well, you spent 30 minutes talking about a journal. I just let you go. I'll let you go.
Well, see, okay. I'm going to get you, Pastor Canty. You go first next week. All right. All right, then. Well, we're at Mama's Table and Wake Up KC. God bless each and every one of you. Pastor Canty, I want to say to y'all, eat. That's right. Goodbye, everybody. We love you. Putting it in your hands, Pastor Canty.
God loves you, and so do I. Until next time, everyone.
Love you all. Love you, Pastor. Love you, Deacon. Bye, everyone in Radio Land. Bye.
All righty. All right, Deacon Walker, you have a good one. All right, take care. Bye-bye. All right, everybody on Facebook Live, you just